For the editors that are editing Christmas Wish, we've made this as simple as possible for you. You can practice with these files that are provided and run through this before Christmas Wish to make sure that you know what to do. So the first thing that you need to do is actually download the files from Lightroom. Now you should have the login details. You need to go to a browser and you need to log into lightroom.adobe.com with the details that have been provided. Once you're in here, you need to go to two places. One of them is the background plates. Now you can download any of these background plates as PSDs, but we're just going to use two for the demonstration. So we're going to use this one and we're going to use this one to show you how they work. So let's show you how to download this one. You need to go to the download button right here and you need to choose original. You want the PSD, not the JPEG, because you want the layers that go on top, all of the atmosphere and the snow, and not the JPEG, which is flat. So you click on PSD and that will download it to your computer. Do exactly the same thing with this one, which is the one that will show you where the shadows come from. Click on that, original PSD. Make sure that you have these on your computer ready to go for Christmas Wish. Download all of them so that you're ready to edit. Now the next thing you need are the files. Now these are our demo Melbourne files, which you can download any one of them. So we're going to get you to download this one here. And you click on download, and for this one you want the NEF, which is actually the raw Nikon file. So you download that exactly the same way and you'll open those up in Photoshop. Once you're in Photoshop, you want to open up your file that you're going to use to edit, and you'll see that this Photoshop file has several layers. This top layer over subject adds some snow and some atmosphere, which your subject can go underneath. So you place your subject in between those two layers. You can amend and mask that off as you need to as well. So we'll leave that up to you when you're editing as to how it looks. Go to the raw file, open with Photoshop. It will open up in Camera Raw. You need to make sure that these are set up correctly. You want it to be Adobe RGB 16 bits channel, and you also want this little section here ticked, open in Photoshop as a smart object. In Camera Raw, first of all, you want to crop this so that you don't have the whole area that you need to work with. Let's just keep it simple so you don't have to cut out as much. And we also want to pull the highlights down a little and the shadows up just to help flatten out the file, and it will help it blend better. So then open up the object in Photoshop. Our next step is to either use the color range system of getting rid of the green, or try one of the actions that I've created, which should, if it's lit correctly, work quite well. So this one I'd call a mid-green. I wouldn't call it a dark green. So I'm going to click on mid-green remove. Okay, so you can see it did a pretty decent job. There's some areas here which we can blend out manually. And so if we open this up, this is the remove green layer and this is the repair layer. If, for example, your subject was wearing green, you would use the repair layer and paint back the area to bring back that green. So let me demonstrate that. So you paint with white to bring it back, and that would bring back what's missing. But in this case, we just want to use this overall mask to probably get rid of the excess areas like underneath the foot there. That was the tape that tells them where to stand. And around the back of our subject here, we're not worrying so much about the edging there. We can fix that in Photoshop, but just there's a little bit of shadow there that we need to get rid of as well. Apart from that, I'll show you how to fix this area once we're in the next section. So we're going to drag that into our background, place it in, resize. You can place that wherever sort of fits, and you just need to think about where you want your subjects. We're going to turn off this for now so you can see everything that's going on. Now the next thing that you want to do is just fix up this mask in these areas here, so up the top. And you can see that there's this extra area here that needs a little bit of tidy up. So the quickest way to do that is to create a new blank layer, clip it to that group there, use a soft brush, grab the color from next to the area that you want to replace and just paint in the edges to match. So just go around the edges of Santa there, and as you change to maybe slightly darker areas, just use that darker color and go around the edge, so you'll still see the shape of the fur which is being cut out, but we'll fix this dark edge. Now there's other ways of doing this as well, and you're welcome to use any way that works well for you, but I find that this is a nice quick sort of way to fix up the edges, especially when you're working to, you know, a really tight time frame. I would recommend actually creating a smart object if you want to kind of keep this separate and then add layers on top. And then you can add different effects, mask it off further as you need to. So one of the things we need to do is create a mask and just blend them into the grass there. I've provided for you a Christmas Wish brush pack, which you can load onto Photoshop and use to help you manage and extract and place the files. First, we're going to select one of the reeds, go into our layer mask and just paint around at the feet, getting rid of some of that bottom part of their feet so that it looks like they're in the grass, which is a key. Now if this layer isn't working for you, some of the snow is kind of further back, you can turn that off and create another layer on top and use the snow brush to create that snow. So we've got a few different ones here, snow pile 1 and snow pile 2. I'm going to grab the colour from this snow pile so it blends and just place a couple of snow piles around our subjects. The next thing that you want to do is just do some work on the shadows and the highlights. Now again, you don't want to be a perfectionist with this because you don't have a lot of time, but you can use some of these different actions that I've created. Shape shadow is not required because they're in the snow, they're in the grass on this one. So we don't really need a contact shadow either. We might want rim light, but at the moment there's quite a lot of rim light around them. So if you need to add more, you can use that. Let's use the shading one. I would suggest that there's possibly a little more shading need on the back of Santa there. We'll leave Sophie and the front and just pull a bit of shading onto the back of Santa where the light's not really hitting him and pull that up. And you can paint this layer on as you need to. So that's how that one works. And then what you can do, go back to your original layer of Santa and your subject and try blend. So you've got color toning as well, which might help, but blend is a good one to use because it will help them blend into the background. You can see that it's blurred behind them specifically, and it's helping them to blend. So the opacity of them is down to 90, which means that they're blending into the background a little bit more. Now you can also add your own color effects. So if I go to color, I've got a new layer here just to help them blend with their surroundings as though there's some reflection there on them, and you can adjust the opacity as well. Okay, and finally the color toning, that creates a bit more of a blend in the color too. So you can do more work if you need to adjust the, I think, you know, Sophie's legs maybe look a little bit dark in this one, so you could also adjust that. Maybe create a levels adjustment layer, make that screen mode, invert it, just paint it in where you feel she needs to be lighter. The same with Santa, if you need to lighten up any areas that maybe are reflecting off the ground because they're in snow. So each background is going to be different and each requirement of what you do is going to be different, but I hope that these methods actually make it much faster for you, particularly with the green screen and cutting out. Now, should that not work, so if this mid green and dark green don't actually work for you, if there's a lot of dark shadows and light shadows and it's not consistent, this may not work as well. The other method is to use color range. And there are step-by-step instructions, and so you can follow that as you need to, but what you're trying to do here is select all of the green with color range. You adjust the fuzziness, probably don't bring it up above 50, otherwise you're going to get too much going on. Also turn off localized color clusters. Choose all of your green until it's completely gone. And we need to invert this one, so we want to see them. So you can see that's the other way of cutting it out. Press OK. Again, you've got a mask. You need to tidy up that mask by painting out the areas that shouldn't be there. And you can also fix the mask. Another way to adjust the edges of Santa, in particular his fur, is to go into select a mask, and you can adjust and shift the edge in, which will help a lot because it brings the edge in on the side of Santa's fur. But you can also use this little tool here and just go around the edge of Santa, lift it up, let it apply it. Can take a little while to process if you're using a slow computer. But just around the fur and around the hair is what you would use this tool for. So once you're done, press OK, and then you've got a nice tidy version. Now if we drag that into Santa's lounge, now if you're using Photoshop 2019, you will know that you don't need to press Shift to keep it proportionate. It's actually the opposite. If you press Shift, it goes all over the place. So if you're in 2018 and lower, you do need to press Shift. So we put Santa in there. Now one of the big things you'll note with this, if you don't have something on the floor, you need to create the shadows. Now, I do recommend converting this to a smart object and then clicking. So click on Shape Shadow, and now you've got your shape shadow here. So you can move that, puppet warp it, do whatever you need to make it match. And so you can also click on Command and just warp that out so it's following the perspective of the floor. And you also note the light in this one is coming from over here, so we're going to warp this across this way to around her feet aren't quite right there, so you'd zoom up. This is one of the reasons with shooting of these particular ones that I recommend having a rug or something on the ground so that you can just cut the rug out and it keeps all of their shadows there and you don't have to do all of this work. We're trying to really work as fast as possible with these files. So yeah, a rug really does help. If you don't have a rug, you do need to spend a little more time on the shadows, unfortunately. The other thing you will need is a contact shadow. So I'll click that again. Now with the contact shadow, you need to paint out all the areas except for under the feet. So if we click that, you can see where the contact shadow is applying. But what we want to do is only have the shape shadow happening where they're touching the ground. So all the rest of this, you can see I'm painting out and only leaving the area that is right on the ground. And you can blur that a little more if you need to, so you can click and feather it. So there's the difference that it makes. It just provides that connection between them and the floor. With this one, there's more light coming from this direction, so you'd need to make Sophie a little bit darker. So what you would do is go to your image, shading, and just paint that shade in to the back edge of her and make sure there's light falling on the front of her. Same with Santa. You know, if you really want to kind of go crazy with this, you add all of the lighting effects as well. So create another blank layer, grab some of this fire and sort of dab that over where you need to, warm that up a bit. So ultimately you're trying to do as much as you can in a short period of time, where you would normally possibly spend a couple of hours working on images like this. You really should only be spending about 15 minutes on it. And I know that's hard for those of us that really like to be perfectionists, but you've got to get through so many. So that's the situation, unfortunately. But these are some quick little tips to make it so that it works quickly for you. It's effective. You can clip this to the subject. So with this particular one, let's just clip it. It helps with the color toning. So that just blends them in a bit more, and having the particles fall over them as well just really helps to blend. Now, the final thing that you need to do when you have finished is to save this as a JPEG. So save this as your PSD, as your working file, but also please save it as a JPEG ready to upload. So save your PSD, and then when you've done that, you'll need to save a flat version of this file. You can do this in Lightroom and other software as well and export it out. Please practice with these files, get used to processing them so that when you're ready for Christmas Wish, you can just get through them really quick, and you're welcome to use these actions, these brushes on anything. I really value your involvement and just thank you for getting involved and being part of Christmas Wish. And so these are a gift to you that you can use for your other composites as well. If you have any questions, please reach out to me. I'm always here. Jump into even the Story Art Education Facebook group and ask on there, and I'm sure there'll be myself and other people there ready to help.